Welcome back in NFL Daily. I am Tom Downey. Week 7 power rankings coming at you guys on today's show. And boy, trying to figure out the top half of the NFL is pretty damn tough right now. There's a lot of 4-win and or 3-win team or 2-loss teams. It's chaotic at the top. Help us out today by sharing today's video. More shares we get, the more views we get, the better chance of keeping lights on here at Chat Sports. Help us out, please, by sharing today's video on social media. As always, worst to first, as voted on by the Chat Sports staff, the Jets are the last winless team in football. They're last. Come on. They are not the first team to fire their head coach, though. The Tennessee Titans made the move to fire Brian Callahan after a putrid showing that the score wasn't even as close as the game actually was. It was a blowout, frankly, against the hapless Raiders. I think had the Titans not had a miracle comeback against the Cardinals, they would have fired him last week. The second he gave up play calling, which I don't think was his choice, by the way, the writing was on the wall. So were the Titans right to fire Brian Callahan? This is the danger of having a bad team, looks outmatched, getting the top pick, drafting a quarterback, bringing back the head coach. Now you've kind of wasted a year, essentially, of Cam Ward's development. So Y for yes, N for no. The Dolphins, number 30. They probably should have beat the Chargers, but they didn't because they find new and creative ways to lose each week. Tua calling out his teammates publicly like that is probably not actually what you want, but feels like there's just a lack of discipline in that locker room. The Browns, number 29. At some point, you actually have to push the ball downfield. The Browns offense cannot be all check down stuff and short stuff, which is what Gabriel's good at, but he's not a good deep ball thrower. That's why you shouldn't take him so early. They got to figure it out on offense. The Saints, number 20, they've been a scrappy team. They've been feisty all year long. I think if you're going to be bad, you should kind of be bad the way the Saints are bad, where like they're competitive, they're fun, they're scoring and being in games. Like they're not getting blown out every single week. The Seahawks game they were, but they've been hanging around. The Bengals, number 27. I thought they got a bit of a spark, especially in the second half from Joe Flacco. Is that going to be enough to fix that team? They got the Steelers this week and then the Jets. So maybe they can get a win or two, but it might be too little too late for them. The Raiders, number 26. Okay, you beat one of the worst teams in football. You can't celebrate too much on that front, but maybe it kind of gets the ball going in the right direction. The Cardinals, number 25. The Ewing theory was at play, which Kobe Brissett having some success against the Colts team that had 2 injuries in the pregame warm-ups, including their best corner. A concussion is insane. I wonder if Arizona is going to kind of falter the last 2 weeks with Kyler Murray a bit banged up. The Ravens are 1-5. They get their bye. A much-needed bye. That team is just decimated by injuries. They hung a little bit better than I thought they would against the Rams, frankly. Maybe a promising sign for a defense that had allowed 47, 37, 30, and 41, or 38, 41 in the previous couple games outside of limiting Browns to 17. But they got to go on a win streak now once they get back from the bye. They've got room for maybe 2 losses. Maybe. It's a lot to ask for down the stretch. Who is the biggest disappointment? This could be player or coach or team. I think it's the Ravens in general. But who is the biggest disappointment in the NFL this year? Let me know in the comments of today's show. The Giants, that was a good performance against the Eagles. I think that was the best game we've seen from Jackson Dart. He did a lot of good stuff in that one. He and Cam Scatterbo are electric. I will call them the CTE crew because of the way that they jeopardize their bodies. But damn if it ain't fun. Well, Cowboys offense is fun. The Cowboys defense is not fun unless you're playing them. They can't do anything right on that side of the ball. They're honestly wasting a borderline MVP caliber year from Dak Prescott. George Pickens is playing great football, and it does not matter because they can't do anything on defense. Dak's last 3 games, his numbers he put up, the yards, touchdowns, the no interceptions, it's the first time in ever that a team didn't win at least 2 of those 3 games. It's an embarrassment, frankly. So, Cowboys at number 22. Team they just lost to, Carolina, is 3-3. Hats off to Rico Dowdle. He said the Cowboys defense has to buckle up. They did not buckle up. He had a fantastic showing. Houston is at 2-3, and playing catch-up in the AFC South, which is kind of a tricky spot for them. Coming off the bye, no game played last week by Houston. Seahawks, Niners, Broncos, Jags, their next 4 games. Probably got to win at least 2, if not 3 of those to be a playoff team. Today's show is made possible by PrizePicks. You and I make decisions every day, but on PrizePicks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this football season on PrizePicks, where it is good to be right. PrizePicks is the only app that offers stacks. You can pick the same player up to 3 times in the same lineup. For example, next Sunday, I would take Jaden Daniels more than receiving yards, more than rushing yards, and more than touchdowns once that one is available. Should be available later today. They were playing on Monday night, so that's why it was a little bit delayed there. Follow other PrizePicks players directly on the app and copy their lineups in one click in the feed tab. This is one of the hybrid pro football, college football matchups. I've got Miller Moss less than receiving yards, although I am putting Miami on upset alert. Cam Little more than 6.5 points. Travis Hunter more than half a touchdown. Go download the PrizePicks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. Hey, Washington, I know you're coming off a bad loss against the Bears in prime time because you couldn't not turn the football over, and you're actually not playing that great this year. You beat the Chargers. That was a big win. You lost to the Falcons. Daniels has been inconsistent. Get right game coming for you against the crappy Cowboys defense. The Bears, hey, they might kind of be a playoff threat right now. 3-2, part of the NFC North that is all above 500, which is wild. Their point differential is not that great. They've had some weird games. Bears teams of the past would have lost that game against the Raiders. They would have missed the kick. They would have lost that game against the Raiders. They've won them in back-to-back, not weeks, but games. The Falcons, number 17 on this list. They are actually part of right around this spot, I want to make note. There's a bunch of 3-2 teams, a couple of 3-2 teams, a bunch of 4-2 teams, a 3-3 team. I think you can argue these top 17, 16, 15, and even up to number 1, that you can argue they're a top 5 team in the NFL. That is how muddled it is in the power rankings, and there's a lot of disagreement in the Chat Sports staff. Atlanta's been streaky. They're one of them. I'm hoping J.J. McCarthy comes back for Minnesota. I don't think Carson Wentz has played particularly well because it's Carson Wentz. Let's be serious. He was fine against the Browns. They ran the ball decently. He was bad against the Pittsburgh Steelers. You can't 350, cool, 2 interceptions. Who cares? I think they need J.J. McCarthy back. A lot of answers are valid on this one. There is a semi-consensus, a plurality consensus vote for us here at Chat Sports. But who is actually the best team in the NFL? Because I've been thinking about this. Tweeted this out last night. I don't think there's a single great team in the NFL right now. Somebody will probably emerge as that as the year goes along. But right now, I don't think there's a single great team. I think there are nearly 20 good teams, though. And that makes for parity, which the NFL loves and desires so much. It's a great year for parity in the NFL. But who is the best team? Let me know in the comments of today's show. Number 15, the 49ers. Resume-wise, they're really good. But this is not resume, this is power rankings. And the injuries are so plentiful. I just don't know if they can keep on finding a way to hang. I have been very impressed by them. It's stupid that they're hurt because if they were healthy, they'd be a top 5 team, I think, pretty easily. But they're so banged up right now. Sneaky team, the New England Patriots. Every year there's a team that doesn't make the playoffs. The year before, there's about 4 to 5 of them, sometimes even 6, and they make it the very next year. That is New England. Their upcoming set of games, folks. Ready for this? Titans, Browns, Falcons, Bucks, Jets, Bengals, Giants, Bills, Ravens, Jets, Dolphins. They've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games against the bottom 5 teams, bottom 6 teams in our power rankings. They're going to win 10 games this year. They're going to make the postseason. Denver at number 13 at 4-2. That was a weird game in London. The Jets were a disaster class, by the way. kind of like almost too conservative with the way they deployed Bo Nix in that one. The Chargers want to throw. How about that play from Herbert? He does it like once a week, every other week. I'm just like, that's not supposed to be possible. It reminds me so much of like just the sheer talent that Matthew Stafford has. They're also banged up. Can they get healthy? We shall see. Seattle at 4-2. Sam Darnold is playing some incredible football right now. The offense has very much benefited from not having to consistently put him in like awkward, air-it-out situations. The completion percentage dropped a lot against Jacksonville, but it still was almost 300 yards, 2 TDs. He's been efficient. He's completing 7% of his passes. He looks good. He's playing very well. They've benefited from the game scripts. That defense is awesome. They look like geniuses for going from Geno to Sam Darnold. We will have more power rankings for you after Week 7. So Week 8, and then we get closer to trade deadline coverage. Hit that sub button so you don't miss out. YouTube.com/chatsportstv. Jacksonville's number 10. That was a letdown game, I guess, against the Seahawks. You know, it was a close-ish game, 20-12. There was some, maybe it shouldn't have been DPI called. Either way, who cares? I think Jacksonville's a real contender this year. Pittsburgh at number 9. And again, this is like, you could argue they're all top 3 teams in this bucket. The Steelers, I think the one thing that's kind of working a little bit both for and against the Steelers right now is there was doubt about them going into the season of like, how good are they really going to be? The schedule hasn't been overly daunting. Like they have played the Jets. They did lose against the Seahawks. The Patriots, which was a close win. The Vikings without their starting quarterback, and the Browns. So it's not like they're playing a bunch of great teams at 4-1. They do get the Bengals this week on Thursday Night Football. And then we'll know how good they are when they play the Packers, Colts, and Chargers all in a row. And Pittsburgh's going to win 9 to 10 games and make the playoffs because that's what they do under Mike Tomlin. Wasn't the prettiest game from the Rams against the Vikings, but they did win. And I think the Rams are a real threat in a very, very talented NFC. The Chiefs at 3-3, I think there was a lot of love for how they played against the Lions. They were a play away from beating the Jags and being 4-2. After a bit of a slow start to the season, I think the Chiefs are kind of getting themselves right. And the schedule sets up decently well, although a nice little 3-game swing in November. Bills, Broncos, Colts, which will have massive implications on seeding right now in the AFC. The Bills, by the way, are number 6. I think they probably would have been the unanimous number 1 had they not lost the Falcons. But they lost, which again, like, who's the best team? It was probably Buffalo going into it. Imagine telling somebody that, hey, going into this a week ago, when the Bills and Eagles were undefeated, that, hey, 2 weeks from now, they're not going to be in the top 5, both of them, because they're going to lose back-to-back games. What do you do there? Green Bay's 5. They kind of faltered a little bit second half against the Bengals. They haven't been as crisp and smooth, but I think that team is still very good. A tie against the Cowboys offense, that's great. Defense sucks. What are you going to do? And the bad loss against the Browns. I think they still haven't quite found that first 2-week groove. I have no idea what to do with Philadelphia. Like, talent-wise, they're good. Feels like every other year they have to replace their offensive coordinator because of badness, and that's a huge concern. And it might not just be a coordinator thing. It might be is it head coaching? Is it a quarterback issue? The offense feels really disjointed, and that is highly concerning. There's already like friction, and you just won a Super Bowl. You're 6 games into the year. How do you have this many issues? What is your concern level right now over the Philadelphia Eagles? Scale it for me from 1 to 10. 1 on the low end, 10 on the high end. Number 3, the Indianapolis Colts. They kind of look legit. There probably should have been DPI on the Trey McBride play, and maybe they lose the game and we take it all back, but they were down their number 1 corner and all kinds of chaos. They were playing players you had not heard of in the secondary in that game, and they won. Since week 1, although they are coming off a loss, which feels weird, but that's how weird the power rankings are, guys. They don't make sense. You can't make it. There's no logic when there's this much chaos. Lions are 2. They would have been number 1 if they won, probably, over the Chiefs. They're a good team. They're also banged up again on defense, and that raises concerns just like last season. At number 1, though, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This has been one of the most fun teams to watch. I think Baker is playing the best football of his career, he was doing that last year, too. They narrowly beat the Falcons. They narrowly beat Houston. They narrowly beat the Jets. They narrowly lost to Philadelphia. They narrowly beat Seattle. And then they did win by more than a touchdown over the Niners for the first time all year. They've been clutch. Those one-loss scores might even out. Big game coming up. It's 1 versus 2. I actually am just now realizing this. We didn't do it this way on purpose. This would have been like the AP poll style rigging. 1 versus 2 on Monday Night Football. Lions against the Bucks. That is must-see TV.